Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys. Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. I am Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool. And we want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Today, Landon, we are going to be going over some of our all-22 notes from the Cowboys' Week 14 win against the Washington football team. But before we do that, how are you doing today, sir?
Good. You know, I was actually wanted to ask you this up front too. Is after watching this, I think we've done this a couple different times. After watching this, how did you feel better or worse about things in general after watching this? After rewatching the tape,
I felt better about the defense.
I felt better about the offense. Okay. But we'll talk about it a little bit more. So it was good to kind of go over things and actually like dive into it and try to figure out what was going on instead of just, a ton of speculation. It was nice to kind of actually look at it and kind of clear-eyed to figure out what's going on. And, there's some stuff here that's not great. There's some stuff here that's better than expected. But I think it's always better to kind of know, right? And then as opposed to just kind of having it left up in the air or feeling like a level of uncertainty. So,
all right, you want to start with the offense? I think that's what everybody wants to hear, right? What we thought of the offense. Let's start with Dak. After rewatching him in this game, what were your thoughts?
I think that we can, I feel like, and this is just me, I feel like a lot more of what I was initially thinking was Dak issues may have been more kind of schematic issues. There were definitely times, several different points, where it felt like Dak didn't have good answers when he should have had better answers. Whether it's scheming guys open or having more opportunity to throw the ball. There were times when it felt like when we were watching during the broadcast that it felt like he was holding on to the ball and I couldn't figure out why. And then watching the all-22 is like, well, because people weren't open.
Yeah. The route combinations were not great in this game for whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there was lots of spacing issues, lots of, and I think the one kind of that I pointed out in my notes that I thought was really kind of telling was, I think it was a second down and 10 or not. It feels like a lot of their problems happened on second down and 10. I don't know if that is just coincidence, but it felt like it was a very bad down and distance for the Cowboys.
Maybe try to avoid second and 10. That'd be a good idea, right?
Yeah, it would. But going back to what I was saying, there was one play where they're running a 3-man route. So they got max protect essentially, right? They got 3 people out en route. One is the tight end, and the other 2 are 19 and 13. And so Schultz runs kind of a flat route, like he's more of an outlet looking situation, and then both Gallup and Cooper are kind of running a really long, like 10+ yard stem practically on top of each other. Mm-hmm. So Dak's in the pocket. He's got time. He's sitting there waiting. And for like the whole first part of their routes, 13 and 19 are stacked on top of each other, which allows, 2 defenders to basically completely cover them up. There's no use of space. There's literally no one on the other side of the field running routes. So it felt like there were several different times when, you look at the all-22 and you see everybody in the field and there's wide receivers who have stopped running routes and they're right by defenders. They're just like, and there's just kind of no motion. Dak's standing there looking, and he can't find anybody to get to. The Cowboys, I mean, to kind of get to a schematic issue, like that is actually something that the Cowboys need to solve. I don't think is necessarily like game specific. The Cowboys have got to find a way to work against situations where the defense drops 8.
And that was in my notes. My notes. Dallas really, really struggles when it's a 3-man rush and everybody else in coverage. What Dak should do is just wait. Just be a little bit more patient. I think he's too worried sometimes about just taking the check down and moving on to the next play. Just wait. Your offensive line's good enough. They'll hold up. Just give yourself a second more to see what breaks open.
I think that it's going to be tougher for some teams to run these kind of 3-man concepts because it really requires good defensive tackles, because that's really what you're having to use in these situations are big guys who can push the pocket. Speed rushers aren't going to work when they're outnumbered, with 2 extra guys. So New York might be able to handle this a little bit as well. But I agree. There was just times when it felt like Dak was sitting in a completely fine pocket. There wasn't anything open down the field. It wasn't like there was any option for him to throw the ball down the field. And he's just a little too happy, in my opinion, to turn around and check it down to whoever's the outlet. And I think that's honestly part of the other issue too, is that it's just not a successful play to try to swing it out to your standing running back who's behind the line of scrimmage and hope that he can break it. That's where they would miss Tony Pollard.
As
right?
I don't hate if it's Pollard, because Pollard, I mean, I'm not just saying this to say it, but he is absolutely the best running back in the league at avoiding tackles. He has been for the last 2 years by every metric, right? Yeah. He's pretty good at making that first guy miss and turning a 1-yard play into 6. Yeah. It's just not really Zeke and Corey Clement's game, right?
And honestly, I feel like they needed to leverage Schultz here, because Schultz has actually been really good at taking passes while standing still and then getting upfield very quickly and being difficult to tackle. So I think that there was some stuff there that was problematic.
I want to get to
into some stuff, but I got a lot of different things to cover. So you give me some of your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean,
too, please.
The dropping 8 is really messing them up, and I agree. The receivers weren't creating separation. I thought Amari was in certain situations, and they probably should have given Amari more chances. They probably should have taken more shots to him. But I think it was in the 4th quarter, there was a key 3rd down, and they ran a slant to Michael Gallup, and he did not run the route particularly well. It was very rounded. Yeah. And William Jackson was able to break on the ball, and it was incompletion. They just need the receivers to play better. And we can talk about CeeDee Lamb in a second, because I know you've got some thoughts on CeeDee, but they didn't play well. And I know it's their first game back really all together, but they need those guys to play better.
Yeah, I felt like, and to kind of go to what you were talking about, I felt like there was, especially early on, several problematic plays with CeeDee Lamb. First off, that screen, that first wide receiver screen they ran, that was a house call. If CeeDee catches that ball, he has only 2 defenders between him and the end zone, and he's got 3 blockers from what it looked like. So there's really no reason that he couldn't have taken that one to the house. It was a great call against what Washington was running, and he couldn't catch it. And then later on that same drive, on a 2nd and 10, by the way, they had CeeDee coming out of the backfield, which I love the idea of running him out of the backfield, getting some different looks, finding different ways to get him open. But he runs kind of an out route, and then they run a curl behind him with Gallup. And the way he ran the route, he kind of rounded it off late. It was a little bit too deep, and it didn't get wide enough. And what it ended up doing was it put a bunch of defenders all in the same area near your receivers. So it muddied up the read for Dak on Gallup behind him, who was basically open, if not for Lamb's defender on him. So, and then there was another 2nd and 10, I think, where he just it looks like they didn't. It was the play that we thought was a terrible throw from Dak out to Gallup, or at least I thought while watching the game. But in reality, it turns out that it looked like it was a toss to Lamb, who didn't come back far enough for the pass. And so it kind of just sailed past.
Yeah, CeeDee kind of stuck his arm out a little bit. And I still think CeeDee is going to be an absolute superstar. There's nothing from the season. There's nothing from the season that indicates that he's not going to be. I mean, he's been really, really good. I do wonder if they're putting a little bit too much on his plate, because think of what they've asked him to do. At times they've asked him to be the X receiver because Amari and Gallup have been out. There's been times he's been playing the slot. There's been times where he's been moved out to the Z. He's their punt returner. It's just they have him playing out of the backfield. On key 3rd downs in this game, they have him lined up as a tailback. So it's just, you wonder if they're asking him to do a little bit too much right now.
Yeah, a couple more things. One, I would say that he's had it's the reason it's surprising is because it feels like an increase on kind of mental errors from last season when he was a rookie, which is surprising, right? But I mean, it's just going to happen. I'm not suggesting that you don't give the ball to him.
No, you got to get the ball
anymore or anything like that. It's just that we need him to clean this up, because this is part of the issue. I also think Gallup at times has struggled kind of with some of the stuff. There was a couple catches I felt like he could have made. There was that one play. I think that's the thing about my feeling on Dak in this game is that if you go back and watch the game snap by snap, there was like 3 or 4 different plays that got taken away where Dak made the play.
Yeah.
But that would have changed, I think, the narrative. I mean, there was at least 2 different deep balls to Gallup that got called back due to penalty. One against us, one against them. There was another play where Dak was rolling out and threw a strike to Gallup up high that Gallup probably should have. I mean, it was a tough catch, but I mean, it was a big play. Gallup should have probably come down with it. There was the Lale Collins play that they called back.
About that one. Yep.
Still haven't gotten an explanation as to what exactly went down there.
But you never will.
Yeah, probably won't. Never will. So I do think that there was and I guess that's what I mean by saying that I felt a little bit better, right? Is that if you go back and watch the game throw by throw, Dak definitely had a couple where that he wished he had back. Yeah. The pick 6, he clearly didn't see the linebacker. He waited too long to throw that football. He should have thrown it earlier to Schultz. But I do feel like there was more than Dak being off. There was some footwork issues that caused him to throw high, but more than Dak being off, I felt like the issue was more spacing, communication in routes, guys not being able to beat the defense because they weren't executing the way that they were supposed to be.
All right, I want to touch on the offensive line here in just a second. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about Boost Mobile. You listen to podcasts for the power of knowledge. You switch to Boost Mobile for the power of saving money, because with Boost, you get the power of a free 5G phone so you can listen to all the latest episodes of the Locked On Cowboys podcast, and the power of one of America's largest 5G networks so you can do it all at the speed of 5G. With all the money you'll save and all that knowledge you'll gain, just how powerful will you become? Switch to Boost Mobile and find out. Get a free Samsung Galaxy A32 5G when you switch to America's largest 5G networks. More power to save. Boost Mobile. We also wanted to tell you guys about On Location. We've been talking to you guys about On Location for the last couple of days. On Location is the Super Bowl 56 that's coming right up. It's at SoFi, not too far away from Landon, less than 100 days away. And On Location, the official hospitality partner of the NFL, it is the only place to score a once-in-a-lifetime Super Bowl ticket and experience package. Select your exact seats and choose from elite experiences featuring an exclusive pregame celebration with NFL legends, 5-star LA hotels, and food by the great Wolfgang Puck. Visit onlocationexp.com/SB56 for more information, or search Super Bowl On Location. That is onlocationexp.com/SB56. All right, let's talk about the offensive line. Connor McGovern is a disaster right now, and I don't know what they're waiting for to go back to Connor Williams, because it's really, really rough right now.
It's really rough. And I agree. I think, part of them is probably thinking, and this is kind of the issue, right? Is that you get 4 or 5 games. What is this, like 3 or 4 games into him starting now, right? And you've given him all this experience, and it's kind of like part of you wants to see it through, right? And it's almost kind of like the Terrence Steele situation last year, where, and maybe the Terrence Steele situation is having a bad influence, honestly, on the thought process here, is that if we keep putting him in, he'll get the experience he needs. He'll get a little better. The problem to me is that, I mean, McGovern just doesn't physically look like the guy that can do it. I mean, it's just he's getting bossed on plays where he's pulling and he's having to hit a target, and
maybe he's a
linebacker.
Guard. I just don't think he's a left guard.
I don't know why that's a difference, man. Like, I mean, but it is
though. We saw him in week 1. He looked totally different at right guard than he has at left guard.
I also think they were asking him to do different stuff. I mean, they I think that the issue has been. And look, they have had part of their struggles with their run game is that they've, really struggled to find any kind of success in the zone running, that they've usually had a lot of success for. And then they've had less success with the power and with pulling guys and getting outside. And those two things to me are are combined. Like one is a constraint to the other, right? Like, so if you are struggling with wide zone and you're struggling with, pulling guys and using power, then your run game overall is going to struggle because it doesn't matter whether you're going one way or another. And I think the issue is inside, you're seeing McGovern struggle to get reach blocks on wide zone. In power, when he's the puller, he's either struggling to hit the target or struggling to stay on his feet at times. And look, I'm not blaming him for this because it's not his fault. But the reason Tyron Smith got hurt is because McGovern got tossed into his legs. So, one of the things that we always got taught when evaluating offensive linemen is how often is this guy on the ground?
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like he's on the ground a lot and just not, you put him in there because you thought he was going to be a more physical force on your offensive line, a stronger guy to get some push. And that hasn't been the case at all since he started.
Are you worried about Terrence Steele at left tackle? I'm guessing for the next 3 weeks at least. Are you worried about it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not thrilled about it. I think that they need to seriously consider Ty Nsekhe. I mean, I think if you watched the game, he didn't do anything to hurt you. He certainly didn't get you killed out there. There were times that Terrence Steele was getting beat while playing offensive tight end. And like I think there was that one big throw, I can't remember which one it was, where Steele got beat so bad inside that why am I forgetting the tight end, the third tight end, number 87? I keep wanting to say Sprinkle. I always want to say Pinkston. I don't know why. But Sprinkle had to come back around and like literally dive at the thighs of a pass rusher in order to block to give Dak just a second more to deliver the ball. But yeah, I do have concerns there for sure. I think that, they're going to have to find a way to kind of run the football a little bit more consistently against some of these teams coming up because they, if they put Terrence Steele in a situation where he's having to pass set, 40 times in a game, they're going to be in real trouble against, anybody. So I think they need to look at Nsekhe, but I have a feeling they'll probably end up with Terrence Steele.
It probably should be Steele, at least from the development standpoint, because this is starting to happen more frequently with Tyron. Like, he's just not going to be able to play a 17-game schedule probably ever again. He's probably only good for 10 games a season.
But
right?
I will say that this has not been like previous years where, here we go with the stingers or the back or the neck. Like, he got a high ankle sprain and then he re-aggravated it because somebody got on his leg. So I do feel a little bit better about the Tyron Smith. Like, this isn't part of that whole thing. But again, you're not wrong in the sense that it is always something, so you need to be prepared.
Anything else on the offense before we move on?
Yeah, the last thing I want to mention is Zeke. I know it's your favorite topic. I think we got good and bad here, right? I think the good is that I actually think Zeke looked better in this game. I actually think he does.
I think he looked healthier. Yes,
he looked healthier than he did the previous week. I think, and I honestly think that his numbers would look a lot better as well if he hadn't been pulled from the game by McCarthy to kind of get Clement some carries because he was concerned about Zeke getting hurt. I think if Zeke had gotten half of Corey Clement's carries, his numbers would have looked a lot better, especially at the time that Clement was getting those carries. The Washington defense was a little bit worn down. I think Clement left a little bit on the bone there. So I think Zeke could have gotten, not to bring up running back and bone and meat on the bone from, what is that, a decade ago? Yeah, geez. Prison, I'm assuming. Because, seriously, got arrested, I think, last I heard.
I know.
The bad, right? Despite the fact that Zeke looked better, the bad actually has to do more with other people besides Zeke, not really him. I don't understand his passing game targets.
Mind-boggling thing ever, right?
There was two. Obviously, they saw something in the tape that made them really want to isolate Zeke versus linebackers in the red zone, and I understand it because honestly, he was open on both of those routes. Like he could have, but they were incredibly difficult passes to throw to a running back. Like trying throwing an over the shoulder seam route
I don't get it.
to Zeke. Like, why not throw that to a tight end or something? And then to run a wheel route, like the wheel route looked even like the closest to being successful. But again, they're both really low percentage throws in the red zone against a guy that's, not normally catching passes that way. And all that plus the failed shovel pass fiasco, which honestly was really just Connor McGovern's fault more than anything because he got blown up. And then some, questionable improv throws by Dak while he was kind of scrambling around. And what does it add up to? It adds up to 1 catch on 6 targets. That 1 catch was a very nice swing pass for a first down, but 1 catch out of 6 targets, like, especially in those red zone targets, like you got to find a way to
you're just wasting
draw something
plays
up for someone else.
Yeah. I'd rather just throw a fade to Michael Gallup than try that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Because it's just so it's so hard to complete, and there's so much downside, right? You're just throwing the ball in the middle of the field to a receiver who, if the ball's not placed there perfectly, he's not going to go up and make a play, right? It's not like he's going to go up and make a ridiculous catch. I don't understand it.
It's not a Zeke thing either. It's just why would you run that with a wide receiver when you needed it? Like, it just seems like a low percentage throw, especially when you have guys who could easily double or triple the percentage of that as a successful play if you ran the route with them instead.
I don't get it. I'm hoping we see less of Zeke in the passing game over the next couple of weeks. Listen, I get why he's out there on passing down. He is a really good pass protector, but I don't know. We need to get away from seeing him get 7 or 8 targets a game like he's seen over the last couple of weeks even before this one when he only had 6. So
they need better targeting. I mean, that's the issue really more than anything. Like, it's just Zeke has usefulness as a receiver, but not in the way that he was used in that game.
Yeah,
not like that.
All right, one more quick break to tell you guys about Stance. Founded in 2009, Stance Apparel represents a radical reinvention of socks, underwear, and active apparel with a sharp focus on comfort, quality, and creativity. Stance brings an atypical aesthetic alongside some of the pop culture's hottest collaborators for the ultimate in style and self-expression, because everything you wear should be a direct extension of who you are and how you feel. Stance believes that the perfect fit matters more than fitting in, that those that feel good and look good do good. Go see for yourself. Register for an account at stance.com and get 15% off of your first purchase. Just use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout to apply. Enjoy the color and comfort of a life less ordinary with Stance. All right, let's talk about the defense. They were good. There you go. That's about the extent of my notes. Really, really good day by them. My goodness, they had some incredible plays. What did you see from the unit?
I always kind of I tweeted this out too. I always kind of categorize my notes right into 4 categories. What are we trying to do on offense? What are they trying to do to our offense? What are we trying to do on defense? And what are they trying to do to our defense? And under what are they trying to do to our defense, I put that Washington is just literally trying to survive because it was.
Can I tell you? Hold on, just really quickly. Can I tell you what my mentality was in this game?
Yeah.
When the Cowboys got to like 3rd down and 7, it's like, okay, just get a couple yards so we can punt and go back to the defense, because I think they're going to win this game by themselves. They had a drive. What the one Taylor Heineke pass that ended up being a touchdown was an incredible throw. They had one other drive that was really against a very soft, almost prevent-like Cowboys defense.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was basically their 2 drives of the game that got more than 15 yards. Other than that, they just destroyed the world in this one.
Yeah, and even that, kind of prevent defense, like that was all in the guise of, hey, let's let Washington run out the clock, because they didn't have any opportunity to throw the football. They couldn't throw the football, and anytime that it was an obvious passing down, Dallas was getting into these kind of 5-0 defensive line looks where every single guy was covered up, and then they were twisting and stunning, and Washington had no answer for it. And I don't know that Washington's offensive line played poorly necessarily. It's just that for Heineke did not handle it well. The guys that were coming were all fired up and all kind of playing out of their mind. I mean,
they were all racing to beat each other to get to the quarterback, right? That's what it felt like.
All these guys are playing great. All of them. I mean, Armstrong's in there playing like a madman as a defensive tackle and snaps. You're seeing D-Law cross chop Brandon Sheriff. You're seeing like, Randy Gregory with like, I mean, we see, everyone saw the play. Like, it's absolutely incredible the way he's able to get the cut block down, get his hands up, get his hands on the football, and then come down with it. And just, and then as much as the pass rushers are the story, the thing that's super exciting was how good the defensive tackles played, man. Yeah. Like everybody, all four guys were rotating in. All four were doing their job well. None of them, were exhausted by the end of the game, like what can happen because they're having to support heavy rotations because they're underserved and they don't have enough people. Now that they've got all the bodies back, Watkins, Hill, these guys can play an appropriate amount of snaps and then just be support for guys like Odigizua and Gallimore. And Gallimore, man, like that's the guy that we were seeing in training camp. Mm-hmm. Like that's the dude that was, and I think it was funny to kind of talk to or hear people on Twitter that like hadn't really seen Gallimore, since last year, really, right? And they're like, dude is huge, and he is. He's like, he looks like a completely different person. There were definitely times I think throughout training camp that people were calling him Malik Collins because he wears 96, right? Like that. But he's bigger than he is now. He's like 310, I think, at least, and just his ability to explode off the line and tackle the quarterback with the center on that one play was just absolutely absurd. But I just wanted to say overall, the defensive tackle, the middle of the defense, wasn't getting blown off the ball. They were muddying up the runs. They were allowing the linebackers to run free. And what was the result? You saw guys like Leighton Vander Esch having one of his best games of the year. Mm-hmm. You saw the linebackers able to kind of stay clean and make plays. The domino cumulative effect of having these guys back, having your full defense back it's really turned this defense into a juggernaut. Obviously we're playing Washington and that's some of the issue. But I would love to see this defense. I can't wait to see what this defense has for the next few weeks because they're just playing out of their minds. And that includes guys in the back end as well that, are
poor Mike
probably not going to be mentioned enough because the guys up front are playing so well.
Poor Mike Glennon. I don't even know what to. All right, I got a question for you. Have you ever played? This is a really old reference. There is an old Nintendo game called Ice Hockey. I don't know if you remember this one.
Yes. I preferred Blades of Glory, but Ice Hockey,
which is a good one. Still, yeah. But in this Ice Hockey game, you can choose between three sizes of defenders. There's a small, there's a medium, and there's a large. I thought about that in this game on a 3-snap basis against Brandon Sheriff. So on, I believe, second down, Quentin Bohanna was up against him one-on-one, and he just kind of bullied him back into the quarterback. On third down, it was DeMarcus Lawrence kicking inside, and he broke inside and got a pressure. On fourth down was the Michael Parsons sack. It's like that's 100-pound difference on two rushes that you have between Bohanna and Parsons. Brandon Sheriff's an all-pro, and I can't imagine what he was thinking. It's like, okay, now it's a 330 guy. Now it's a 240 pound guy that runs a 4.3. How am I supposed to deal with all this? It must have been just so frustrating for him.
He got his butt kicked by 3 different flavors of Cowboys pass rushers. I mean, it's totally nuts. And that sequence is the one that I was referring to where D-Law got his cross chop on Sheriff. It's just the Cowboys are able to kind of deploy so many different fronts and so many different looks. And they've been doing that even before all these guys came back. They've been doing stuff like lining up the defensive tackles outside and lining up the defensive ends inside and then kind of twisting them in and out. So now that they've got even more talent that they can kind of distribute across those different spots, it's going to make for really fun football when the teams have to get in the third down and throw the ball because they're going to have 3, frankly, elite pass rushers coming after them. And then probably another 2 guys that are pretty darn good at rushing the passer as well.
The last thing I'll say about the defense is they just have a lot of guys that can make plays. Some of them are a little bit more inconsistent. I think Brown's been pretty consistent. He had one bad game this year, so I'm not going to harp on too much. But like Jordan Lewis is, your third defensive back in a lot of these situations, and he can have an excellent game like he had in this one. I just thought he was phenomenal. Obviously, the forced fumble was great. You can bring in somebody like Malik Hooker off the bench. Jaron Kearse is playing a ton of snaps. Like they finally have a defense that's multiple, that they can kind of match up depending on the game. They can throw different guys out there if they need to. And Landon, we haven't even got to the point yet where they've needed Kelvin Joseph or Nashawn Wright or Donovan Wilson, who we'll see if he comes back. But like they've got more chips that they can play, but they're not even having to use them yet.
Yeah, because you got guys like Malik Hooker, who has, had a fantastic game. He had that one penalty along the sideline, but he was just all over the place, being very solid, making tackles.
I only played 18 snaps.
Yeah, and that's your fourth safety, So yeah, you found a way to kind of suddenly become deep at the positions that you were weak. And now suddenly you've gone, like we say it, I feel like every episode, but it's still completely shocking. You found a way to make a defense that you hoped would be middle of the pack into, I'm pretty sure I read this today, a top 5 defense based on EPA per play, which is shocking.
Listen, I was listening to the Athletic podcast the other day, and they were talking about how many defenses would you take over the Cowboys going forward? I think Patriots are one, and it kind of stops, right? Like you could have a legitimate conversation about Dallas's defense compared to Miami or any of these other units because they're just playing that well.
Absolutely. And deep, clearly, because that it was what we talked about. The benefit of having some of those, the only benefit of having some of those players injured early in the season on defense is that it got a bunch of snaps for these younger guys. And now they're all hungry guys that can come in when you need them, when you don't have DeMarcus Lawrence, when you don't have Randy Gregg, when you don't have Micah Parsons, which you currently do. So it makes trying to solve this defense very difficult.
All right, that is it for today's show. Thank you guys for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Now, to make your second listen, I would suggest checking out the Locked On Bets show, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs, Locked On Bets. Just really quickly, tomorrow, Landon, is our 1,000th show together on the Locked On Cowboys podcast. I don't know if we're going to do anything special for it, but 1,000 episodes, kind of incredible. We've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, and guys, really, we just need to thank you all because we love doing this. It's so much fun, and the reason we get to do it is because y'all listen to it every day. So really, it's just a big thank you to everybody who listens because this is a joy to do, and we have a lot of fun together. And it's all because you guys listen. If you guys didn't listen, we probably wouldn't do it as often. We probably still do it, but we probably wouldn't do it as often.
You can check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I am at Marcus_Mosher. You guys know Locked On Cowboys, wherever you get your podcast, up on YouTube. We'll see you guys tomorrow. We're going to answer some of your Twitter questions. Thursday, we've got a show with Locked On Giants. We're going to talk to Patricia Traina, and I cannot wait for that conversation. That's going to be a lot of fun to see how the post-Jason Garrett era is going over there. Seems like it's going well. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks.